wall. 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 Wall.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo. It's going to be only America first. America first. The American people will come first once again. With respect, the respect that we deserve. From this day forward, it's going to be only America
Good evening, everybody. We're watching America First. My name is NickJFuentes. We have a great show for you tonight. Very excited to be back with you here on Thursday. Almost the end of the week, finally, right? We've got a great show for you tonight. Lots happening in the news. Finally, we have Trump's new immigration proposal, and we'll be going over that and discussing it tonight. We've actually done, I think, 2 shows about the new immigration proposal so far in 2019. We had when it was announced that the deal was being put together. We had, I think, another show when we found out some early details about it. We had some reporting from Ryan Gerdusky 2 weeks ago about, so we discussed maybe what was coming, a little preview. But today, finally, and I don't know if you caught it, but President Trump did a little press conference today, and he let out and introduced and revealed all the details, all the provisions of the new immigration proposal. And actually, it's good. It's actually a good deal. And just about everybody that I've talked to in D.C. or otherwise who's based in red pilled and who's in the know and has credibility on the immigration issue believes so as well. It's a good deal. And I don't like to say that because it's Jared Kushner and Blump, fat Trump. We don't like him in 2019, right? He's not really, we're not pleased with him so far, but I have to tell you, it's a good deal. And we're going to go over it, but just a little preview. It's got a lot of things in there. It's got a new visa program to replace the diversity visa lottery, which is huge. It substantially reduces or eliminates chain migration in place of a merit-based point system. And a lot of people think that the merit-based system, a points system, or a high-skilled immigration system is worse in some ways than low-skilled, but I'll explain why it actually has the potential to reduce overall legal immigration. And we're going to go over all the details later, but it just really is solid. So a white pill, a couple of white pills tonight. So we'll talk about that, and that is our feature. We will also be talking about this new SAT adversity score. Have you seen this? I think everybody's talking about this. It was #1 on Twitter Moments today. But the SAT, which is, of course, the college entry exam, basically, they're now adopting a new component to the test where, normally the test is, it's a little math, it's a little English, it's writing. I don't believe I took the SAT. I took the ACT. So I'm not totally familiar with what's in there. But, I'm pretty sure the test is just like all the other ones. They test you based on your knowledge or your expertise, your skills in the various academic subjects. Well, now they're adding a new score, a new component to that score, which is totally different. Instead of measuring your competence or your intellectual capacity, it instead measures how poor you are, how much crime there is in your neighborhood, what the class size is at your high school, what kind of government assistance you get, and things like this. And it basically says that the people that are disadvantaged get a little bump. They get a little bit more. They get a higher adversity score, and this is going to push them over the edge in Ivy League schools and other, college entry decisions, admissions decisions. And I really think that's a great thing. So we'll be going over that as well and what I think about that. Maybe some possible avenues where this could end up being a good thing. But it looks to me like another affirmative action program, frankly. So we'll look at that. And that should take us to the end. That'll be our show for the night. But it's been a pretty exciting week. Past couple of weeks, like I said, it's been kind of boring, kind of mellow, a little bit depressing. But this week we really are having, I think, a lot of not only big stories and happenings, but also white pills. So that's always good. But before we get into the news, I do want to discuss just a little bit this abortion thing a little bit further because, yesterday we covered the abortion law in detail from Alabama, of course, which says that if a doctor performs an abortion for any reason other than to save the life of the mother, he goes to jail for 100 years. And I thought this was great. Everybody watches this show, thought this is terrific. Finally, we get to save babies. We get to save the lives of the unborn. Hoes are mad, all that. But, over the past 24 hours, I've noticed a trend, which actually, I don't know if it's surprising, but it made me really angry. We expect that the left-wing hoes would be mad on Monday when the bill was announced, when it passed the Alabama State Senate. But in the last 24 hours, I see a lot of the conservative hoes that are mad. I see, who is this one? There's this new bimbo that the alt-right is propping up. Her name is like Saint Ashley or something like that. And she's a good-looking girl, but just a total vapid. I mean, we're not talking about a very intelligent person here. And so that was the first one I saw this morning where she said, I'm pro-life. You know, just what I said yesterday. I'm pro-life, but this law is no good. It's barbaric or, you know, whatever. It's problematic. And then I see Tommy Lahren this afternoon. Everybody's DMing me, oh, Nick, check out what Tommy Lahren said. You got to banter or whatever. Tommy Lahren says, I'm pro-life, but, and she's actually not pro-life. If you remember, that's why she got fired from The Blaze. It's because she went on The View and said, I think, you know, an abortion is a constitutional right. But she tweeted out something to the effect that, well, this new law isn't actually going to reduce abortions because, you know, people will find a way to get an abortion. You can't make it illegal because that just means that women are going to get their abortions in more dangerous ways. And I just can't tell you enough how many times do we have to say it? I can scream it. I can whisper it. I could say it 10 times the same way. I could say it every show. I feel like we say it every show. Please, no women in politics. Enough. Enough is enough. I don't know what it's going to take for people to get it through their heads. And they say, you know, well, I'm a woman and I've got something to say. Or, Nick, you're really too hard on the women. We need women in the movement. But it's just like every day, it's something else with these people. You know, if it's not, they're working for the government and they're feds, or they say they're fourth-generation Holocaust survivors, or they're like trying to kill themselves on a live stream, or they want to kill their babies. They just can't let it go. You know, the government steps in and says, please don't kill your babies. We'll lock up the doctor and you won't even face a penalty. And they're like, no, we want to kill our babies. I don't know what it takes for people to wake up and realize, well, this animal, this species that we're dealing with, the femoid, it can't be let anywhere near the levers of power, the law, the government. It doesn't go well. Think of this, okay? They're mothers. They have the eggs inside of them. And they grow a baby inside of them. And they're a mother to their child. And they want to kill it. And they want to kill it. And they're going to change the laws. And they're going to make propaganda. And they're going to tweet about it because they want to preserve the ability for them to lawfully kill their own children growing inside of them. What does that tell you? And it's not all of them. It's not all of them. There are pro-life women out there. But it should tell you something. That a good percentage of them on the right, they still want to go in there. And of course, it goes without saying. I mean, these are ridiculous arguments. Look, an abortion is a murder. Like we said yesterday, you can't be pro-life and say, but... what about rape? What about this? You know, imagine if you were born of a rape. Imagine if you were born of incest. Should we kill those people? Oh, you were born of rape? Bah! You know, we're going to go and kill you. And, oh, you were born of incest? You were born of inbreeding? You know, that actually might be anti-Semitic if we were to say we were going to pop those people off. So I'm not going to say that. That might be, that might pose some problems when we look at certain ethnic groups. But you have your right to life. That's the whole point. We all started out there. I mean, it's kind of simple. You know, we all started out as a fertilized egg. So to say, well, it's not a real life. Where did you come from? You know, you should be lucky and thankful that you weren't aborted, you know? So it's like, I'm pro-life, but I'm pro-life, except this is too extreme. The doctor should be put in jail, and we should take a step further. The woman should be put in jail too. They should all go to jail. 100 years for the doctor, 1,000 years for the woman. That's what I say. That's going to be my slogan in 2036. Nick, are you going to run for president? Yes. Fuentes 2036. 100 years for the doctor, 1,000 years for the woman. And that'll be... But it's true. But it's true. And Tommy Lahren says, well, they're going to get the abortion anyway. We have to take care of this kind of libertarian rhetoric. It's with everything. Well, if we want to reduce drugs, we have to legalize all the drugs. If we want to reduce abortion, we have to legalize abortion. We have to legalize everything. No, the law is the instructor. The law must come in, you know, enough of this libertarian, individualist, constitutional crap. We need the state to go in there and force the society to be the way we want it to be. Guess what? If doctors are facing 100 years in jail, if they perform an abortion, they're going to think twice about performing an abortion. And you know what? If a woman was facing 100 years if she got an abortion outside of a doctor, she would also think twice about getting an abortion. That's how these things work. That's why they put in place mandatory minimums for the drugs. And people say, oh, that's too much time. That's terrible. That's kind of the point. It's supposed to act as a deterrent. And then you get less drugs. Okay, but we're not going to relitigate that. Just some observations, Just the same observation I keep having to make. But these reply guys, these orbiters, it doesn't end. They just can't get it through their heads. And I know a lot of people, they're like, oh, we're down with Nick. We watch America First. I consider myself a friend of Nick and his ideology and all this. But at the same time, they're totally, but in practice, they're blue-pilled on this question. And they know who they are. But anyway, that's the abortion observation. We're going to jump into the news here, and we'll talk about the SAT adversity score first. And so to me, what's most striking, it's actually kind of funny. So I'll read off the policy. I'll give you my observations. It says, this is according to CNN, it says, the College Board said it would implement what it calls the Environmental Context Dashboard, which would measure factors like the crime rate, poverty levels of the school where a student comes from, to better capture their, quote, resourcefulness to overcome challenges and achieve more with less. And I think that's kind of interesting because isn't it actually quite the opposite? Doesn't it mean that they're achieving less with less? It says we need to help the people that can achieve more with less, but you wouldn't need to boost their score, right? You wouldn't need to supplement their SAT score if they actually were achieving more with less. If they were achieving more than the people who had, well, they wouldn't need the supplemental score. So it's like, well, you're achieving less because you have less, so we're going to help you out. Anyway, it says, students are scored on a scale of 1 to 100 based on data from records like the U.S. Census and the National Center for Education Statistics. According to the College Board, a score of 50 would be considered average, while a number above 50 indicates more hardship. So if you're in an area where there's a lot of crime, a lot of poverty, a lot of problems going on, you're going to score 100, and that'll give you a boost. And they say that they've tested this program out, and I think about a dozen or so schools, and they say that it's changed every application. They say that the implementation of this environmental context dashboard, according to college admissions officers, quote, changes every application that they look at. And it's noticeably changed the composition of the campus. And to me, what this is so obviously intended to do is to act as affirmative action. Come on, low income, high crime. What is this code for? Well, what year is it? How long have we been playing this game with the politically correct stuff? Low income communities, this kind of stuff, really? High crime. What does that describe? What does that describe when you hear that? What are you thinking of when you think of, low income communities? Challenged communities, places where there's hardship. Are you thinking about, rural North Dakota? Are you thinking about Montana, Wyoming? Are you thinking about Baltimore, Detroit, Chicago, Los Angeles? Come on, we know what this means. And it's so funny because they say, well, no, but we don't take race into consideration. It's only these quantitative things that we get from the government statistics. It's just crime and, these other things, but it's not race. But yet on Twitter, when they're posting about this and they post all the facts and the graphs, then why do they include a graph showing all the different races and the different racial averages for SAT scores? So it says it's not about race. No, it's about poverty and crime. But in showing their justification for why they're implementing the program, it's showing, well, here's the disparities in SAT scores. Here's what it is for X, Y, and Z. Oh, and here's what it is for race. So why do you even include? And then it's so funny because I wonder if people take a look at that and maybe think to themselves, maybe there's another causal factor here. People will look at 3 graphs of SAT scores. They see, here is the graph of average SAT scores based on income. And obviously the higher income earners have a higher average SAT and so on. The poorer you get, the lower your score. And here's the averages based on crime. A high crime neighborhood has a lower average SAT score. A low crime neighborhood has a higher average SAT score. And then they show it by race. And they say, well, if you're Asian, your average SAT score is 1,223. If you're white, your average SAT score is 1,123. If you're Hispanic, your average SAT score is 990. And if you're black, your average SAT score is 946. And people look at these three graphs. They look at these three graphs where it's this relationship between income and SAT score, between crime and SAT score, and then between race and SAT score. And people work their way up this way, and they say, well, if you're in a high crime neighborhood and it's low income and blacks simply happen to live in those neighborhoods, they're going to have lower average SAT scores. And high crime, low income, and if you just happen to be Hispanic and you happen to be living in those neighborhoods, you have a lower average SAT score. And so the causal relationship goes this way. Nobody ever thinks maybe just another hypothesis, maybe it goes in the other direction. Why do these fine African Americans and Hispanic Americans, and look, I'm African, all right, I'm 1.5% African, I'm 15% Latino, okay? Or 25% Hispanic, 15% Native. So I don't mean anything when I say this, but gee, maybe if these other groups are getting lower scores, and maybe that indicates lower competence, perhaps a lower IQ in general, maybe that leads you to believe why they would all be living in these neighborhoods. Maybe you think that's actually the cause. And this is always the argument. And you look at like West Africa as an example. Average IQ in West Africa, 65. Average IQ in West Africa is 65. In America, it's 100. And understand, when they were creating the IQ averages, they made it so that like average was 100. So that should be like the standard. This is your functional, competent person. It's 100. Average in West Africa is 65, meaning that half the population is below. Half the population is above. But if you understand how a bell curve works and how this distribution works, it means that the vast majority hover around 65. So it's not like half the population is over and that means you have like a lot of 100 IQ. It means that like about 80% of the population is within a couple of standard deviations of 65. So is West Africa poor and bad? Does that make these people have lower IQ scores, or does the lower IQ score make the bad conditions? I don't know. If you have a country full of people that have an average IQ of 65, do you think it's the high crime and all the bad conditions that made it that they are this way, or is it vice versa? And the same applies in America. Do you think that all these people live in low-income, high-crime neighborhoods? Do you think that's having the impact on their SAT scores, or is it that they have SAT scores, why they're living in these conditions? And understand why this is important. I have a lot of people that tell me, Nick, you shouldn't talk about that because that's offensive. That's too hard for people to handle. I'm not saying one group of people is better than another group of people. People hear this kind of talk about group disparities, averages that are different between races, and they say, well, you're a white supremacist. Well, if the logic follows, if I believe that a certain race is superior because they score higher on a test or they have a higher IQ, well, then I'd be an Asian supremacist because the Asians have the higher scores on the standardized testing and on the IQ. So obviously it doesn't follow that way. I'm not saying one group of people is better or superior. I'm Catholic. We're all equal before God, of course. We all have dignity before God. And we all have, these are qualitative and quantitative differences, of which there are a number of them. And people are readily willing to admit there are disparities when it's in the favor of minorities, but not when it's in the favor of whites. So, for example, there's this myth about, black people are more athletic, or they're taller, or whatever. And people are fine admitting that, or they're more musical, or they're more talented in one area, right? I mean, you hear this all the time. Or, they're more well-endowed. You hear this a lot. And people have no problem with these kinds of racial disparities. I debated Destiny on the Trainwrecks TV podcast, and Destiny said, well, of course you're going to have differences in average height. Well, doesn't it follow then that you're going to have average differences in other areas as well? So understand what I mean by that. I'm not suggesting anything, any kind of superiority ideology or supremacy ideology. It's merely empirical facts. It's science, folks. When left-wing people try to come in and they say, oh, that's racist, what do you believe in, alternative facts? What are you, some kind of drumfter? You believe in alternative facts? What are you, some kind of creationist? But the reason why it matters, but understand why we even mention that kind of stuff, it's because this is the ideology that is the cause for mass immigration. This is why people are okay with mass immigration, because if they believe that it's only due to circumstance, it's only due to accident that people live in bad conditions in America and in the world, then they're inclined to bring them in. We look at the plight of people in Central America and we say, oh, wow, you have it really hard in Nicaragua. You have it so hard in Guatemala and Honduras and all these countries. Come over here and we're going to set you up with a job and you'll be just like us and, you're going to have a nice living and all that. Well, that kind of logic makes sense. That kind of policy makes sense if it was only by accident that they ended up in those conditions. Because, of course, then they could come into America and they can rapidly assimilate into America within a few generations. You can't tell the difference. We're all pink on the inside. They're just as competent. They're in middle-class, safe communities the same way as we are. But that's obviously not the case. There is a direct relationship between the people and their genetics and who they are and what their country looks like. And we know this. Because you look, and it's almost uniform based on race what the country looks like. South and Central America, Sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, the Middle East. Why are these countries all basically qualitatively the same? Well, it's because when a person leaves Costa Rica, it wasn't Costa Rica that, it's, something about the land that made it bad or something about, guns, germs, and steel that made it less developed. No, it was the people. It was the people that could not create a society that functions on the same material level as we are. And so when the people go from Honduras to America, they don't magically become Americans. They remain Hondurans, and they create the conditions that prevail in Honduras, and they make it worse. And they come in here, and that's why you see in southwestern United States, conditions are deteriorating, and the politics is changing, and so on. So, so I look at the SAT thing, and it's like a big red pill, and I can't help myself. Kind of a big red pill there. It's kind of obvious when they plaster these three graphs side by side, it's like, gee, why is everyone conditioned to only look in one direction as opposed to the other? But nevertheless, the program will benefit, I'm sure, the usual people of color. I'm sure this is just another way, because they couldn't do it legally based on race. Well, now they say, no, but we're doing it instead by circumstance. And so they're able to create, I think, probably a de facto affirmative action program. I guess this will make it easier to sue universities for that kind of thing, for discrimination or whatever. And maybe this is a mistake they're making. I guess we'll have to see. But, I see the SAT adversity score. I think anybody could even hear SAT adversity score and they're like, oh yeah, affirmative action, of course. And maybe you should step back and, question some of those assumptions that you're holding. Like, gee, why do I automatically equate one with the other? Well, because we all kind of understand. Look, we all live in the real world. We're living in a multiracial America. We know what's going on. If you have eyeballs, okay, you see what's going on. It's not rocket science, and we've been saying for weeks. What I'm talking about, everybody knows about. Deep down, everybody knows all this stuff. They just know it through practical experience, but they just won't allow themselves to really acknowledge it or really think it consciously. But it's there. And everybody, like I said, in a functional way, everybody operates as though they know it, but they just won't tell you that because you can't. Because you can't, because then you get fired. That means you're a bad person. So that's the SAT adversity score. But of course, the much more pressing news, the much bigger news, in my opinion, is this immigration proposal. And like I said, we've been looking at this for a long time, a couple of months, I think. And this went into effect really during the government shutdown. Jared Kushner got involved, and he made this deal happen. If you remember, Trump shut down the government December 21st, 2018, and it went on for 30-plus days, longest government shutdown in history. And in the closing week or 2 weeks of the shutdown, Trump brought in Jared Kushner to figure out and sort out a deal. And they ended up with this terrible deal. You remember the funding bill. That's really why we jumped off the Trump train. But Jared Kushner stuck around. That was his intro. That was his entry into the immigration agenda. And so ever since then, he's begun to craft this immigration proposal. And he's brought in a lot of different groups. He brought in CIS, the Center for Immigration Studies. He brought in FAIR, which you know is an immigration think tank. He brought in also some nefarious groups like the American Enterprise Institute, the George W. Bush Center, people like that. And so for a long time, there was a lot of back and forth about what's this going to look like. I remember when we first reported on this, it was actually from Breitbart. They said Jared Kushner is holding court in the White House with all these pro-immigrant, pro-amnesty, big business groups. And I said, this is a black pill. Jared Kushner's running the show. We're done. Pack it up, fellas. We're out of here. But then we saw there was a TED Talk, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, where Jared Kushner was named as Time's one of 100 most influential people of 2018. And in the interview, he talked about the new immigration plan. He said that Stephen Miller was on board. And a lot of the immigration hawks were on board. And he crafted it with a lot of those kinds of people. And they're happy with it. I said, okay, maybe it's not so bad. And then Ryan Gerdusky reported on it, I think on the same day. And he said that this is actually going to surprise a lot of people. It'll have E-Verify, it'll get rid of chain migration, and so on. And I said, I'll believe it when I see it. And we haven't seen the text of the bill yet, but Trump unveiled it, and I'll read you. This is from Fox News, some of the provisions, and I'll summarize. We'll go over the pros and cons. So this is Fox News. It says, quote, President Trump on Thursday unveiled a long-awaited immigration overhaul that would dramatically alter how the U.S. accepts people into the country, upending the system in order to favor admissions based on merit rather than family ties. The proposal would judge immigrants with a points-based system that would favor high-skilled workers, accounting for age, English proficiency, education, and whether the applicant has a well-paying job offer. He has also frequently called for the end to the visa lottery program, something the immigration plan seeks to do. It would be replaced by a new Build America visa program that would recognize, quote, extraordinary talent in people with professional and specialized vocations, including exceptional students. Trump said it closes loopholes so that gang members and criminals are inadmissible and would stop frivolous asylum claims. Trump said the proposal would also require immigrants to be financially self-sufficient, learn English, and pass a civics exam before admission. He said, quote, through these steps, we will deliver an immigration system that strengthens our traditions, our culture, and our values. And lastly, it would create a permanent and self-sustaining border security trust fund, which is financed by fees generated by border crossings. And the fund is intended to help reach a goal of 100% scanning rate at ports of entry as opposed to 3% today. So overall, the broad strokes here is it gets rid of the diversity visa lottery program, which is huge. That's about 70,000 immigrants every year from countries like Burundi and Central Africa, and just like, let's throw in some non-white people to get some diversity in there. So that's great. They get rid of that. They replace it with a Build America visa, which instead it gives it to exceptional students, talented people, whatever. Getting rid of chain migration and instead replacing it with a merit-based point system. That's huge, because the reason that immigration increases every year is because it's all family-based. It's all chain migration. In other words, for every immigrant that comes in here, they can bring in all their family. They bring in their spouse, their kids, their aunts, their uncles, their abuelas, their abuelos. Everybody comes in, and that's why it grows every year. That's why it's out of control, because it's chain migration. So he says instead it'll be merit-based. And not only that, but when we look at how it goes from chain migration to merit-based migration, is it's using a point system. And the white pill about this is the point system is very restrictive. It's very difficult. If you were paying attention there in the Fox News article, it's got a lot of things in there that are like English proficiency, a civics exam, like it's very beefy requirements. So although it doesn't change the overall level of immigration, which is disappointing, the restrictions are so great that people have assured me that overall, that would in itself have the potential to reduce migration overall in totality. And not only that, but even in the long term, even if it didn't reduce the overall level of immigration, merit-based migration is easier to reduce politically than chain migration. So that's a very huge thing. It closes the asylum loopholes and other loopholes about letting people in and letting people stay, which is big. Because what have we been talking about for the past 3 months? It's the asylum laws, which are why all these people are coming across. So it closes those loopholes. Trump himself didn't say that E-Verify was in the bill, but I've been told that it is in the bill, so I will believe it when I see it. But if E-Verify was implemented, and I heard that from a couple of sources, if E-Verify is implemented completely and efficiently, that's a huge thing. So overall, I think that covers everything. Oh, and also the border wall trust fund. That's the biggest thing, is it establishes, and this is kind of what he said during the election, it'll establish a trust fund where if people come across the border or there's remittances or whatever, it doesn't say exactly, but it'll charge fees based on border crossings, and that will go towards a trust fund that goes towards border barrier, ports of entry technology, things like that. So overall, this is a very good bill. I think the biggest thing is not what's in it, it's what's not in it. Amnesty. That's, to me, the biggest grand slam about it. It's not a perfect deal, of course. How could this be improved if it were reducing the overall levels of immigration in a totally explicit way? I think that would be a way to make it better. If Trump said E-Verify was in it and I didn't just have to take somebody's word for it, that would be better. If it had money for a border wall without the trust fund thing, I guess that would be better. But all things considered, if this is the immigration compromise, this is the comprehensive immigration bill, and I've heard that 51 Republican senators are on board with it, and they only need one or two more, and that's a new consensus in the Republican Party. This is huge. And this is what Gerdusky's been saying, and I think he's right on the money on this. He says what's really white-pilling about the bill more than anything else is that this represents the new center. So a lot of people say, well, this doesn't go far enough. Well, that's not really why it's a big deal. It's a big deal because for 50 years, the center, the compromise, the comprehensive immigration reform was always border security in exchange for amnesty. That's what it was in 1986. That was with George W. Bush. That's what it was even Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell under Obama. This was what it was. It was in exchange for securing the border, we have to give a big amnesty. 3 million, 5 million, 6 million, whatever. We got to give a big amnesty. So what's big about this is it represents a total shift to the right. The whole center has moved, where now the compromise is we're going to get border security, we're going to get E-Verify, we're going to get all these things that are good for immigration hawks, and the compromise is not amnesty, it's that we keep the level of immigration. Again, explicitly, it's kept the same. But if you look at the back end of the immigration bill, the text, if you read into what it does practically, it could even reduce the overall level of immigration. So overall, it's great. The obvious pros are what I just mentioned, the merit-based system, the points-based system, the E-Verify. E-Verify is huge because if you accept that there are probably something like 40 million illegal immigrants in the country, E-Verify says they can't work anymore. And if they can't work anymore, they start to go back over the border. And we've said this for years. A lot of people believe that the answer to millions of illegal immigrants in the country is just start rounding them up. We got to get them in vans and ship them across. That's not the solution. The most obvious and the easiest way to do it is to make it so that they can't make a living in the country anymore. They come over here because they can get welfare and the social services, but also so that they can get jobs. And they do work the jobs. They take the low-skilled jobs and other jobs, and it's very easy for them, in agriculture and in other places. So if we implemented mandatory E-Verify, which allows employers and forces employers, if it's mandatory, to check against the federal registry and say, are you a citizen? And if not, then you can't work here. They start going back across the border, so that solves that. The asylum laws ties up this whole immigration crisis that we've been seeing for the past 3 months, realistically the past 12 months, the last year and a half or so. So that's big. The Border Trust Fund isn't explicitly a border wall, but look, if it's securing the ports of entry, that's been the problem since we've been talking about this. So overall, I think this is a great deal, and I'm really pleasantly surprised. I really am, because, we would have thought that Jared Kushner, coming together with AEI and all these other groups, would put together an amnesty or an expansion of legal immigration or low-skilled immigration or something like that. But really what it does is it completely changes. They say it's modernizing the immigration system, and it makes it work for us. And to me, the biggest sign that this is a good thing is what Trump says. He says, this will deliver an immigration system that strengthens our traditions, our culture, and our values. To me, that's exactly what we need to hear. That's big. So, immigration proposal, in short, based and red-pilled. Now, the question becomes, how do we get this thing passed? Unfortunately, the Democrats are so not about this, and I've been told it wasn't even written to pass the House of Representatives under its current Democratic leadership. Already, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, they say, we are not going to support this. This is the same old fringe, extremist, anti-immigrant agenda, and blah, blah. So it's not going to pass the House anytime soon. And we don't want it to. I guess what they're anticipating is that they will use this in 2020 as kind of like a bargaining chip, where they'll say to the GOP base, we need to win back the House in 2020. We need to win back all the branches of government so that we can pass this bill. And we've heard that before. Admittedly, we've heard that before. But that's going to be the play, is if the Democrats aren't going to give it to us, then we'll just have to pass it when we take back the House and we take back the Senate and we, regain the White House in 2020. And then we'll be able to pass it. And I've heard that before. We heard that in 2016, right? More or less. So they don't believe it'll pass the House. It probably won't. They won't even try it. But the play is that after 2020, then it'll become feasible. And I remain skeptical. The bill is good. If this is what the bill looks like, if that's what the text of the bill says, if it doesn't undergo any amendments or modifications or anything like that, it's a good bill, right? All of that said, I'm still not totally sold. Look, we've been at this for 2 years now, and we've heard a lot of promises. We've seen a lot of good deals put together, but you got to close. If you don't close the deal, nothing else matters. Because, we saw the RAISE Act, right? It was cutting legal immigration in half. It was actually much better. And that didn't even get introduced, I don't believe. If it did, it didn't pass. I don't remember. This was about a year ago. And we saw the immigration deal that was proposed during the government shutdown, which said, we'll delay the closure of the DACA and DAPA programs. In exchange, we want $5 billion for a border wall. And that didn't get passed. And we never heard of that again. So if this is different than everything we've seen before, which is it's not going to change, it's not going to get modified, it's exactly what they say it is, and it'll get passed once they just get back into power, then then it's a good thing. But I am skeptical that all these things will be followed through. Because, even if this is what the bill says, it could be changed. Even if it isn't changed, they might not pass it. Even if they don't, if they don't pass it, then what difference does it make, right? Because we were told in 2016, we're going to end migration and illegal immigration and all this stuff. And we had a GOP House and a GOP Senate and the GOP White House for 2 years. And we didn't get anything. And we got the omnibus spending bill and we got all this other crap. So color me a little bit skeptical that people are so gung-ho about it. But the text of the bill is good. Well, politics is about a little bit more than the text of the bill, right? So I will say, again, the proposal as it stands, from what I know about it and from what we, again, have come to understand so far, it's a positive contribution. We've opened up the conversation. We've shifted the middle to the right, and that's great. And if that's the final product, and if it gets passed, then we'll be happy campers. Okay, Trump, you saved America. You're a good person. But if none of that happens, if it doesn't get passed, if it gets amended, all that, well, then, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. Shame on me. He made the mistake again. So I will say I'm tentatively excited. And, look, if that were to come to pass, I think then you would be able to get a handle on the immigration situation. Like we said yesterday, the fertility rates are going down for everybody. Birth rates are going down for everybody. So if we could go in and really limit migration, legal and illegal immigration, we might have a chance of turning the country around. I'm not going to say it's a good chance or it's going to be easy or anything like that. But, I think ultimately, if we can change the immigration system and make it something closer to this merit-based, points-based system, then we'll be in business. So I like it. I'm pleasantly surprised. But again, we've been surprised like this before. We can't help it. We can't help it. We've been burned too many times. And I was like that a year ago. Look, no, but Trump said. No, guys, but Trump said it's going to be good. He said it's going to be good. But then when it doesn't actually get acted upon, then you're in trouble. When it doesn't actually pass in a law, become policy and all the rest and be enforced, then you're screwed. So we'll see. And, you never underestimate the Republicans' ability to fail on these things. So cautiously optimistic, but, definitely a good effort. Definitely a step in the right direction. So we look at that points-based, E-Verify, no amnesty. I think it's a winner. I think it's a winner, but we'll have to see. So that's our immigration proposal. But we're going to take a look at our super chats, and we'll see what you guys are saying about all this. I wonder what their reaction will be. I wonder if people are feeling the same way about it as me, or if people are skeptical. I don't know. We'll take a look here. Simon Scola says, have you ever read Siege by James Mason? No, and I disavow. We don't advocate for violence, so we disavow that book. Cassie, Queen of Spades Dylan says, heard of Razor Fist. He is the Styx clone who got crushed in a debate. I just looked up what Queen of Spades looked up the other day, and nice. I didn't know. I've been reading that username for a long time, and I never knew what it meant. Then I looked it up. I was like, wonderful. Heard of Razor Fist. He is the Styx clone who got crushed in a debate with Kyle Kuklinski. His fake trad conservative thought girlfriend Eve retweets you. Yeah, I know Eve. She's all right. As far as e-girls go, we're mutual, so I don't want to say anything bad. I don't want to say anything nasty. She's all right. And Razor Fist guy, yeah, I've heard of him. I don't know. The metal thing just doesn't really, it's so corny to me. I've seen a few of his videos, and it's just so corny. It's such a LARP. It's like, what are you doing, Maybe because my father was an ethnic, he always raised me to be skeptical of this white people kind of stuff, this corny white people thing. White people uniquely have this propensity to be silly and corny and kind of goofy and LARPy. And I think it is because I am an ethnic, an American ethnic. Irish, Mexican father, Italian mother that I was raised to always be like, what is you doing? What is you doing? That's kind of the mentality. So I see this guy and he's doing his video and it's just all black because it's metal, or it's black and red and I've got my shades on and I drive a motorcycle. And he's talking about like what video games like and superhero movies. It's like, what are you doing, dude? So LARPers, I have no time for LARPers, but I don't want to insult the guy too hardcore because, like I said, I'm mutuals with this GF. Don't want to cause any row, don't want to cause any trouble, but, just not really my thing, just not really my cup of tea, all right? I'm not really into that. People say I LARP because I wear a suit on the show. To me, this is just like the standard, if you're going to address the audience, you have a little respect, you dress nice, you wear a tie. I'm not trying to be like a newscaster or anything. It's just to me like the standard outfit, But when people put on like a costume and it's got like this whole motif or whatever, it's like, bro, what are you doing though? Kind of cringe, bro, So, but I don't know too much about it. I'm sure he's a nice guy though, but I'm sure they're nice people. John Q. Public says, hello, is this the Donald J. Trump social media censorship hotline? Yes, I'd like to file a claim. Nick Fuentes isn't answering my emails. I think Google took me off the list. Yeah, I saw that. Step in the right direction, They say that the White House has opened up a hotline where you can submit a tip or, a complaint if you feel you've been wrongly censored. Here's the thing, and this is why I said do anything. I think that obviously it would be better if he were to do something to actually address the root of the problem, which is the social media monopolies, and go after the Section 230 protections or, antitrust or whatever. I think there's a lot of ways you could do it. But here's why I think doing literally anything is good, is because you establish this hotline or whatever, this complaint box, whatever it is, and Trump talks about it every so many weeks. And all this does is it puts Facebook on notice. And I think that's all at this stage in the game. That's not all we need, but it is something that is, it's better than nothing. Because as long as we're saying we've got our eye on you and we're aware of what's going on, well, then Facebook and others are reluctant to further censor. They're reluctant to put themselves in jeopardy because, now it's not just the Republicans talking about this. Now it's the Democrats also talking about this. The Republicans are talking about breaking up the companies or, looking into it or whatever. But the Democrats are talking about actually doing something. Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, Tulsi Gabbard, some of the major candidates, they're saying we're going to break up Facebook and we're going to regulate them and whatever. So I think so long as it is entered into the consciousness that these companies are problematic, and the government has to step in, they're going to be reluctant to take any actions that are sensational or draw attention or negative attention from politicians, the state, or the media. So, in my opinion, as long as that's happening, I know it's kind of silly. It's not exactly, a course of action that'll solve the problem, but it puts them on notice. I think it buys us a little bit of time. So I'm happy with it. As long as they're doing something, I'm happy. Not that that constitutes a real effort, but you understand what I'm saying. Anon says, consider the idea that the European, East Asian, plebeian population has been bred to be docile beta conformist over millennia of imperial rule, while the upper classes have maintained aggression and are alpha. Yeah, I think there's something to that, I guess. I don't know, there's a lot of, look at criminals. You think like black people are, really docile? To me, they're pretty, they're out there. We out here, right? Gangbanging and all that, and then, super predators and things like that. The lower classes committing crimes. Hispanics, too. I guess there's also white people that do this. So I don't think that's completely true. I think there's low classes that are high T. But, look, the red pill is, this is always how society works. There's a difference between saying the society has to reform so that it can, I don't know, can exist in a better way so that we can have things that are functional and working and can have good families and you can have a degree of order. I guess that's what we're going for, saying we got to reform the society so it's more functional, more orderly, these kinds of things, as opposed to people saying we need to radically transform human society and what it means to be, these are totally different things. I'm in the former category. There are people that say, no, 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 but the people need to rise up and we need to be autonomous and we need to be decentralized or we need to have an egalitarian revolution or whatever. It's always been this way. You have always had, I believe, people at the top, people in the middle and people on the bottom. That's just how human society works. It's hierarchical. And so, when people try to challenge the nature of hierarchy itself, that's when I say, okay, you're going too far. We always have hierarchy. We're not against hierarchy. We're just in favor of a hierarchy that is, living in conformity to the natural law and is effective and has efficacy and all that, as opposed to a hierarchy which is based on domination and abuse and, it's like this regressive Ponzi scheme sort of thing, and it's based on child sacrifice. So that's kind of what we're getting at. But yeah, I think the masses will always be docile and stupid and all. That's just how the country is. That's just how societies operate. I think everybody knows this. So I'm not against that in itself. And yeah, the elites are going to be, a warrior caste and a priestly caste and a kingship or something. That's always going to exist, and they're always going to be virile and connected to the transcendent. And then you always have people who are just going to serve their regular function, and I think that's just how you find that in all esoteric traditions. You find that in Catholicism. It's everywhere. So, but yeah, that's true. Young Lung says, hey, Nick, don't ban me, but remember when you banned a guy for telling you what tie to wear? I don't remember that, actually. I remember I banned somebody because he was like, what did he say? He's like, your tie is tacky or something, but it was actually a good tie. So, I ban people who just have negative vibes. If you just have nothing but negativity to contribute, then you get banned, I really got to get a haircut. Sheesh. It's just all over the place. I wish I had hair. I feel like there's some people, I watch TikTok, and people, it doesn't matter what they do to their hair, it always looks good. I'm over here jealously watching these TikToks, and you get all these e-boys, and it's like no matter what they do, no matter what the length is, no matter, they just whatever, and it looks fine. And I feel like my hair, it looks good one day out of the week. So, is that a relatable teen moment? Is that a relatable moment? Or anybody else feel the same way? Like and subscribe. Retweet if you ever feel that way. But it's so true. Basketball says, if you had to dust one, boomers or cookies? Good question. I don't know. Some days I really feel like dusting the boomers, man. Especially when I do a YouTube video and I look at the comments or I look at replies to a tweet that blows up. I'll probably say I don't know. I don't know what you mean by cookies there. But I really don't even know what you mean by cookies. I like cookies. So, I would probably say the boomers only because I really, chocolate chip cookie, you can't beat it. Unless you're trying to convey some kind of dog whistle message, in which case I do not know what you're talking about. Bill says, hey, Dad, did you know one of the 9/11 hijackers lived next door to an Israeli spy who documented and celebrated the attacks? Dad, wow, Trump must win 2020. Yeah, as if that, that's going to help. Yeah, that's a real shocker. There's a lot of coincidences about that day in our history. But, I believe the story. I believe the story that the government tells. If anybody were to ask me, Nick, are you a 9/11 truther? Are you a conspiracy theorist? I would say no, of course not. Me, believe in conspiracy theories? Of course not. I believe everything the government said about 9/11. These two buildings falling at free fall speeds, and it just happens to look like a controlled demolition. It's the planes crash into the building. That's what happens when a plane crashes into a building. Building was on fire for a little while at free fall speeds, and it just collapses. And building 7, it just got really hot in there. It's just when a building gets really hot, it just collapses at free fall speed, exactly like a controlled demolition. Look, if you try to come at my show and tell me these things, I'm like, please. You're being crazy. You sound crazy right now. Do you know how crazy you sound? That's dangerous to our democracy. That's disinformation. I know you talk about the dancing Israelis, people being apprehended in a van, you know, things like that. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Slow down there, Buster. Slow down there, mister. You trying to question the government story? What are you, some kind of enemy of the state? Not me. I pay my taxes. I love the government. Those troops who went over there to defend my freedom, God, you know what? God bless them. God damn it. They went over there. They defend my freedom. I couldn't tie my shoes if it weren't for people blowing up Arabs over there in the Middle East. So I believe it. Tower 7, all of it. I believe it all. Okay? Okay, are you happy? Are you happy for asking that? Dirty says, Griffith did nothing wrong. I don't know who that is. Seth Rich says, thank you for not interviewing E. Michael Jones. The SPLC calls him an anti-Semite. This show does not need that kind of hate speech around here. Yeah, no problem. Totally not a troll says, thank you for your service. Oh, thank you. Really Good Comics says, first. Okay, I don't know if you're first there, but okay. Ian says, what's better to say, Keck or Lindy? Lindy is dumb to say. Lindy is a term used by, who's that Arab? What's his name again? I forget. Who wrote Anti-Fragile? What's his name? It's, I can picture his face, too. That stupid face. What is his name? I can't think of it right now. He wrote Anti-Fragile. He wrote the Black Swan book. What's his name? Okay, you know, you're probably posting in the live chat at this point. It is Taleb, Nassim Taleb, yes. He says Lindy, and I don't like that guy, so I don't say Lindy. All the people that say Lindy, I don't like. You know, there was this homosexual, he used to troll me on Twitter. He would say Lindy. Taleb says Lindy. This pedophile says Lindy. So I don't say Lindy. I just don't, I think it's dumb. I much prefer Check and Keck. You know, I much prefer whatever Gabe says, I'm down with, as opposed to Lindy. Hokey says, hey, Nick, what is the best way to wipe? Okay, I'm not answering that. Pablo says, hey, big guy, look up 1 Thessalonians 2:14-16. No, I'm not doing that. Some asshole said, I love when people look, and I had to explain this to somebody. One time somebody said, read a Bible verse. And I was like, no. And then they were like, here, Google this one. And it was like a page long. And when I didn't read it, he sends me this big, long email. He's like, you know what? You're way out of line. It's all about the money for you. And the way that you dismissed the Bible. You know, I always was fine with you being Catholic, but the way you dismissed the Bible, it makes me question if you're even a Christian and blah, blah, blah. Look, the way the Super Chat works, you put the text in the Super Chat, and I read the text that's in the chat. It's not, you know, go read this somewhere else and go read that. There's a character limit for a reason, all right? It's to maintain an orderly, functioning show. So if you want to copy and paste it, I'm more than happy to read whatever's in the Super Chat. But people tell, oh, go read this, go check out that. No, not going to happen. Not going to happen, mister. Yeah, that guy. Big, long email. It was like a $2 chat, too. You know what? Blah, blah, blah. You didn't read my thing. And I had to read him the riot act. Gosh, people, man. People are so... I don't even know anymore. Some asshole says, Nick, TikTok is paused. Where do the Zoomers go from here? No, TikTok is based, actually. TikTok is misogynistic, implicitly racist. And so, no, TikTok is based... It's homophobic. Not that any of those things are good, but, you know, if you say it's paused, no, it's definitely not paused. It's problematic. Chris W. says, hey, Nick, former far-left LARPer here. Thanks for fighting the good fight. My God, I wasted the last 12 years of my life. Please forgive me, big guy. Only God forgives. And that's the only person you got to worry about. But, hey, I forgive you for being a leftist. Good to hear you came over, though. Better late than never, right? Russell says banning abortion is the moral thing to do, but should we be concerned about the demographic implications considering abortion rates among other races? No, because abortion is evil. So I get a lot of people in my comments the other night saying, oh, base, they're banned abortion, and now black people aren't doing abortions. That's like just such an evil and sick thing to say, as though, you know, that's any kind of expedient for demographic change. Horrible, immoral, and... I think that's one of the real differences between being Catholic and being alt-right, being, you know, a nationalist and being some sick freak like that. So, yeah, I mean, I suppose it's concerning, but I think everything kind of works itself out in the end if you look at other numbers, other factors. for mortality. But no, I don't think it would have a significant effect on the birth rate, honestly, for a variety of reasons that I can't really get into. But no, I think our first business should be getting rid of child sacrifice before we worry about that. McRecreational says, dated reminder, Hegel was a paused Protestant, and right Hegelians are all Protestants. Read late Evola, Guénon, de Maistre, and Alasdair MacIntyre instead. Well, I haven't read very much Hegel, so I'll have to take your word for it. I'm not really a philosophy guy. But I don't know, Darren Beatty, I believe, is a Hegelian. I think. He studied Hegel. I don't know if he's a Hegelian, but he's pretty based and red-pilled. So I would say there's a difference between being a secular right-wing person and a religious right-wing person. I'll say that much. So I think you're onto something there. Welder says the SAT has been bunk ever since it was changed from a test of reasoning skills to a test of accumulated information. I don't know if that's true. I'm not an SAT expert, so I don't know. Somebody with just a lot of underscores as the username says, Nick, what was your ACT score? I got a 31 when I took it a few years ago. The ACT is way more based than the cringe SAT. Should I say my ACT? I don't know if I want to say it because I don't want people to say, whatever. But I got higher than a 31, I'll say that much. Nearly perfect. Now, I didn't get a perfect score, but I was up there. I was in the top tier percentages. So I don't know if I want to tell you. Cool Board says, do we really need more than 18 amendments? No, we don't need the 19th. I can tell you that much. Medi says, FB and IG are a mess right now. Saw someone post a Gadsden in the shape of a uterus. Yikes, department. Lolberts need to know their place. Also, Proverbs 9:13. Yeah, true. Lolbertarians are pretty retarded, especially when it comes to these issues. Smelly says, scared to tell my mom about Walter from Drake and Josh. Wonderful. Marcus says, is artists, especially in the high arts, being subversive to tradition a new phenomenon? Or have we always just acclimated perhaps, to the subversions of the old ones? No, I don't think so. I think if you looked at the, artists in the last 1,000 years or something, I think medieval artists were probably doing the right thing. You look at a cathedral. Cathedral is not subversive. Cathedral draws your eyes upward. It's Gothic. It is Faustian, ultimately Christian. So I don't know if that's always been the case. Hokey says, if you could abolish one amendment, what would you choose? You know which one I would choose. 19th Amendment. Really good comics. Asian women keep coming up to me saying, oh, we hate. I can't read it. I can't read it in the way you want me to read it. In the way I can't read this out phonetically when you're trying to make me do a racist Asian accent. But really good comic says, Asian women keep coming up to me saying, oh, we hate Asian men. We want a white boy. But he says it using different letters. They told me about an ethno-state loophole where they get their eggs swapped with a white woman's. Thoughts? Well, I'm against race mixing, but look, the Asians, we're against race mixing, but we can have tastes, okay? But we can have taste, all right? So, it's not to say that you're not attracted to other races. It just means you can't pursue that, unfortunately. So, gonna have to disavow. Not that I'm in favor of an ethno-state or anything, but, my feelings about this. So, sorry to tell you really good comics, but in my personal opinion, I wouldn't go in for that kind of thing. Gotta have some Europore, I guess. But I understand, but I can relate. Unforgivable says, whoa, big guy. Nicholas Gandolfini over here. Love the JLP Premium Show. A great interview and a feel-good white pill. Cheers. Well, thanks. Glad you enjoyed that. Alan says, been playing Sweet Home Alabama all day. Hashtag hose mad. Yeah, good to hear. Andrew says, why don't they show the Jewish SAT? I don't know. Probably because they don't consider Jewish a large enough racial category. I love that, some guy from Poland, why don't they show Jewish for SAT? Really makes you think, huh? It's like, all right, settle down. Red Hawks is it's just like trying to deal with people like this, people who do that kind of thing. Red Hawk says, opinion of the technological singularity, i.e. transhumanism, gene editing, and AI. I'm skeptical. They've been saying this for years about the singularity. In 10 years, they're going to have a computer the size of the human brain. And it's like, we never get any closer to that. So, I think I read somewhere that, what is that law that says that every year the microchip gets twice as small or something, can fit, whoops, you fit as much data in a chip that's half as big or size. I don't know. I'm not a computer guy, but this is supposed to be this unbreakable law of computer technology, and it's been broken for like a decade. So I feel like all these projections, which say, well, based on what we knew before, we can project that it'll be this exponential growth, and we're going to become, the AI, whatever. I think it's I don't know if it's necessarily true. I'm very skeptical about these projections that they make. So I would say that transhumanism, AI, I think that's a ways away if it's ever going to happen. AI becoming sentient, I don't even know if that's possible. People just assume that. Gene editing is obviously here. That's another thing I think is more complicated than people understand and may lead to bad things. So I'm very much skeptical of these new technologies and what is the word? Is efficacious a word, but how effective they will be. If they're as practical and easy as people say they are. Because, we've been living in the 21st century for 20 years, and how much has really changed, I feel like in the 1990s, they were like, well, it's going to be the future, and it's going to be flying cars, and it's going to be robots, and 2020, it's kind of the same, more or less. You've got a lot of changes going on with software and Uber and that kind of thing and the internet, but have our lives really drastically changed in the way they did from 1900 to 1950 or something? I don't know. Let's see. Alex says, are you aware of the fact that Jews were highly involved in the Armenian genocide? Thanks for your work, bro. Wow, I did not know that. Yeah, gotta love the, as if that's relevant. National Remnant says, whoops, scroll down too far there. National Remnant says, can't believe Mike Ma wrote Catcher in the Rye too. Oh, did he? Still haven't read it, so I'll have to order that soon. NB Extreme says, I don't know about you, but when I'm referred to Dr. Gonzalez or Dr. Abdullah, I let out a big sigh of relief because I know I'm getting the best of the best. Yeah, me too. I'm always grateful to see that. Well, I don't know. I like when you get an Asian doctor. You get an Asian girl doctor. You come into the room and you're just kind of hanging out there in the gown or whatever, and they come in. I think this happened to me once or twice before, and it's like a young Southeast Asian or young Asian doctor. And they're like, and they kind of feel you up and stuff. And it's like, oh, I don't know. Maybe I'm in favor of high-skilled immigration. All of a sudden, I don't have a problem with it anymore. All of a sudden, I think this is all right. So, jokes, kidding. We're kidding, all right? Relax, everybody. Temple Drake says, that tie really brings out the colorful glow of your eyes. Beautiful. Wow, thank you so much. Thank you. What a nice change. Everybody always making fun of my weight or my philtrum or my hair or my clothes or my eyebrows. So thank you. I appreciate that. Young Lung says, on the SAT thing, I'm tired of white people using thinly veiled vernacular like low-income area to shoot their children in the foot and considering it virtuous. Yeah, I agree. And that's always what it is, right? Better schools, a nice neighborhood, this kind of thing, right? It's like, what are you really saying? Yu Wu says, will each state see their own Florida HB 741? Is that the anti-Semitism bill? Yeah, I'm sure eventually. It'll just happen at the federal level. I think it already has with government contracts. So, yeah, I'm sure that's not far down the line for the federal level. Won't even have to happen at every state. Darrington says, Quieres? Yeah, okay. Ian Matthews says, being cringe is a byproduct of our Faustian spirit. Yeah, perhaps. Perhaps. But yeah, as an ethnic, I can never be cringe. Shyster says, hey, Nicky boy, I've been slowly red-pilling my mom about demographic change. Feels good, man. Also missed the show yesterday, but ho's literally still mad. Still mad. Ho's mad. Ho's mad. I like when the hoes are mad, I have to tell you. It is a good thing. And I saw some idiots. I saw some goofball. He was like, the alt-right position on this is, the hoes are mad, and we should, that's not good enough. Yeah, okay, fag. Okay, gay homo. Hoes are mad. What more do you need? Hoes are mad, okay? I'm happy. When hoes are mad, I feel good. So, and also, the unborn are being saved as well, and that's good too. Your local milkman says, is that suit Hugo Boss? Who are you wearing today? I'm wearing Macy's. I'm wearing the Macy's collection. Ian says the hair thing is definitely a relatable teen moment. Yeah, lots of teens can relate to this, because I watch the TikToks. It really is bad for your mental health, because I watch the TikToks. I watch the e-boys and the e-girls and people younger than me, and it's like, oh, we're in high school and we're having such a good time, and it's some e-boy who their parents are like perfect genetic specimens, and they got 10 cars, and they it literally doesn't matter what they do with their hair, what they wear. I feel like I dress like shit, and my hair's always a mess, and I always go outside, and I'm like, what am I even doing, And then you go on TikTok, and these people, it's just like effortless. It makes me feel like the Eggman, you remember the Eggman video? The classic Kino, OG, car rants. So that's how I feel. But that's how I feel sometimes, and I know that's a relatable teen moment. Use this heart button to say, is this a relatable teen moment? Like this video if this is a relatable teen moment. So true. Yeah, and also Jacob Sartori is really disappointing me lately. Sorry, you know me. I'm a Sartorian. We stan a king, okay? But today, I'm looking through a Snapchat story, as I do, and the whole Snapchat story is him doing barf emojis because of the abortion bill. He's like, what? You're trying to tell women what to do? That ain't cool, man. And he's doing the barf emoji. I'm like, Jacob Sartori, it's time to wake the hell up. You're not a kid anymore, all right? This isn't Musically anymore. You're not a kid. You're not doing Sweatshirt, all right? This is the Better With You EP. You got to grow up and get red-pilled already. My own, with this guy. I thought he was going to be the one to red-pill the masses, but it doesn't look like it's going to be the case, I see his content. I'm like, you know what? This guy, this is an Aryan. His name is Rolf. Very traditional, very Aryan name. And I'm like, he's the one. He's the chosen one. And then he does stuff like this. And I think, what are you thinking, dude? What are you thinking? And really what it comes down to is women make men become liberal. Because if you want to go out with a girl, and you want to get women to like you, the idea is, I have to conform to their politics. Because women are, they're all bent out of shape about this. Hoes are mad about this. So men are like, yeah, babe, I'm mad too. I'm in favor of abortion too. And that's really the problem. All these thirsty ass, as Gabe would call them, male coons. Not coon in a racial sense, but they're cooning for the e-girl. They're acting a coon for the girl, tap dancing, so I don't mean it in a racial context, but I mean it, that's the internet vernacular. Tap dancing for the eternal female. This is our problem. And people say, men are the problem too. No, cause and effect. The woman, they dangle the coochie and they say, I'm against abortion. You have to be against abortion too. And these slavish reply guys and orbiters and male coons, I'm upset about it too, honey. We have to kill babies. It has to stop. It has to end. Has to end. They're canceled in 2019. Women have been canceled. Women been canceled. Women been canceled for a minute though, but these reply guys, the betas, the orbiters, the male coons, canceled in 2019. You're canceled. We don't want anything to do with you. You are so canceled. It's hard enough out there. Kings only. None of these other people, okay? So, is that a relatable moment or what? Is that relatable? You're watching Jacob Sartorius' Snapchat story. I know people are feeling the same way I am. God's Plan says it's 2024. The Democratic nominee says pushback against a public registry for all citizens' browser history to prevent white nationalism makes them a Nazi. Yeah, it's what's happening in Europe. So I'm sure that's not far from a reality in America. I'm going to have to flee the country. Going to have to go. And I've thought about this. I think because I've had a dream for a long time to start a burger stand. I'm passionate about the classic burger, fries. I'm an American, all right? Burger, all right? Burger, all right? So my dream is, okay, I'm going to become a hamburger merchant, and I thought that's not going to work out. I'm never going to make it in America as a burger merchant. But then the two ideas collided, and I thought, I'm going to have to flee the country. I'll have to go to, Vietnam or Bulgaria, whatever. I'll have to go somewhere remote, somewhere, and it'll be cheap there. I was reading all about Vietnam because I'm like, I'm probably going to have to go to Hanoi in 10 years or something, and about how cheap it is and so on, and climate and things of this nature. And I thought, what if I opened up an American burger place in a foreign country? It'd be a gold mine. It would be a gold mine. They would want to go and get an authentic, American-style burger, because I'm sure they don't have them in these, whatever, in the jungle. So that was my thought. Once I have to flee, I will become, and that's the story arc. You'll find me. The young blood will be sent over to America. He'll meet QAnon in America. I'll be like, I've come to you. I don't know who else to go to, but I have this mark. I have the mark of the based in the red pilled, and I have this gift, whatever. And the elder QAnon, my old friend, will say, there's someone who you need to go see, but I'm not even sure if he's alive anymore. He's in the jungle, And one day, and like I said, this is a story I tell every week. I'll be flipping burgers in the jungle, and I'll be some old haggard man doing business, like Dexter in Star Wars 2, when Obi-Wan goes to get the dart analyzed, the Mandalorian dart. You'll go into the place, and I'll be like, who are you? Who sent you? And they'll say the name, and I'll be like, come into the back. Come with me. There's something I need to show you. And I don't know, I don't know if I have any artifact. I'll show them the America First mug, or I don't know what else. What else do I even have? A Nerf gun? I don't know. But that's my plan. So yeah, that's on the way. That's coming in America. That's coming, and I'm going. I'm out of here, Anne Marie says, boomers are the best generation. Yeah, okay. Best generation in their own minds. Ali Alexander, my man, my nibba, he says, thoughty libertarians must be kicked out. I'm glad you agree. Ali has always been red-pilled on these questions. Ali, red-pilled dude. And look, that Ashley, what is her name? Let me look up her name real quick. It's like Ashtard. Ashley. Is it Ashley St. Clair? Let me look it up. Yeah. Ashtard St. Coochie says, I'm in favor of abortion. I'm pro-life, but, yeah. You know what you need to be? You need to be pro peanut butter and jelly time in the kitchen, babe. I know it's pretty cliche, but, look, how about you have some babies, and then you come and tell me about, whether you're pro-life or not. I'm going to, start a podcast, and I'm, pro-life. Yeah, okay, babe. So I agree. Thoughty libertarians, out. We don't need you. No thank you. No thanks. No thank you. Nothing but trouble. Billy says an illegal alien serial killer just got arrested in Texas for killing 11 elderly women, all 80 plus. Our future is so bright. Yeah, that's, I love our new country, right? I love our new country. Natural conservatives, right? Alvin says, which has the bigger negative effect on Christianity in America, Zionism or liberalism? Churches are full of bugmen. I had one hug me from behind once. Getting hugged from behind is actually a good feeling. I don't know why. Maybe if it was a stranger. But getting hugged from behind, that's actually a good feeling. So I don't know what you're complaining about. Sounds very, look, maybe Vatican II, maybe it's got its perks, right? The old hug from behind. I would probably say liberalism, of course. Zionism is a product of liberalism in many ways, because Zionism says we want a nation state for the Jews, and a nation state is a product of liberalism. So I would say that it's, one is a byproduct of the other. Poo Poo King, my man, long time no see, says, Nick, my wiener is too small. Can I have an SAT point? Yeah, big guy. Good old Poo Poo King, my man. I wonder how that guy's doing. My old pal. But yeah, we'll give you, I'm sure that fits into the category as well. I'm sure that'll give you what is it? Disadvantage point or an adversity point. Because, hey, it's adversity. Peter says, opinion on co-ed bathrooms at UC Berkeley for inclusion. A man was caught with a spy cam recording women. Will this eventually come to public schools? I'm sure. It's no surprise that this is the way it is. They don't even believe in gender anymore. So how can you believe in gendered bathrooms? And this surprises nobody. Cole Stockdale says, my local Greek Orthodox church has a collective reproduction plan and an array of separate subsidies to assist with birth rates, free financial planning. That's good. The only problem is they're not in communion with Christ's church. So that might be, that's great. I wish Catholics had that kind of thing, but, if you want to have a good shot of getting into the heaven, you're going to want to be Catholic instead. Smelly says, scared to tell my mom Drake and Josh stuck in treehouse. Okay. Salim says, did you see the fat black woman that pushed the old white guy out of the bus and he later died? Seems like a real winner. Yeah, another real hero. Another case of black excellence, naturally. Neon says we should red pill family-friendly dad vlog. He's a normie YouTuber, but he talks about race a lot. His name is also Nick, and he's also a quarter Mexican. Wow. Just like me. Yeah, I guess we should red pill that guy. LR says even as they have from the Jews who both killed the Lord Jesus and the prophets and have persecuted us and pleased not God and our adversaries to all men. 1 Thessalonians 2:14-15. Well, there you have it. You know who it is. Suleiman the Magnificent says, are the femoids in your family red-pilled? Yeah, for the most part. Yeah, my grandma's probably the most red-pilled. She's the most red-pilled. She's, no offense, everybody, she's probably the smartest one, I think, in the family. And, Mom's pretty red-pilled. She's generally red-pilled, but not enough. I have to convince her a little bit. Because she'll be like, no, I don't like the way you talk about women. Or I don't like, because I'll say certain things during the day. I'll just, have certain exclamations. I'll say a certain word here or there. Or I'll say a phrase, something that's a little controversial that I don't say on the show. And she'll say, oh, I don't know why you have to say that or whatever. So I don't know if she's based. She's definitely red-pilled, but I don't know if she's based. And sister is not based in red-pilled at all. Kind of a normie, but that's okay. So it's a mixed bag. In short, it's a mixed bag at home. But what are you going to do? I guess that's just the way the cookie crumbles when it comes to the femoid. ASDF says you got a 34. You told us before. Oh, maybe I did. Yeah, I got a 34. Darrington says, Bible verse emailer here. Oh, here we go. He says, I learned my lesson that night, and now I only send in good content in high dollar amounts. Moral, America first is not a democracy. Well, thank you. I'm glad that you have peacefully assimilated back into the America First system. See, this is the kind of viewership that we need, So I appreciate it. I'm glad that we are all in compliance with the system here. It's okay, people. Everybody has their day, So glad to hear it. Josh Sayre says, have you seen the video called Joker Says the End Word? Bad spelling for super chat. Also, Ho's mad on my Facebook timeline. They truly enjoy evil. No, I haven't seen that one. But yeah, I love seeing that. I see that all over the place. Ho's are mad on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram. It's good to see. That's a victory for God when the Ho's are mad. So good to hear that other people are witnessing this. John says, go see John Wick 3. It's fantastic. I'm going to see it tonight, actually. So I will be seeing it. Zoom says, Nick, getting hugged from behind is a nice feeling. Fuentes. Well, don't make it sound different than I said it. But it is, all right? Sheesh. Ethan Ryder, I don't know if people are trying to imply something there. I think that's a pretty uncontroversial thing to say, but, whatever. Ethan says, I got a 1350 on the SAT. Pretty based, right? Pretty based indeed. I agree. I did take the SAT, so I don't even know what it's out of. Is it out of 1,400 or 2,100? Yoltz says Shapiro just rage quit Crowder's show. LOLs. Did he really? I don't know if that's legit or not, but pretty funny if true. Okay, and the next two are from Smelly. I'm not going to read that one, but I'll read this one. It says, Nick, what is your ideal significant other? I don't know. Honestly, it's just something. It's just someone like. At this point, I'm a loner, all right? It's like Kanye West says, baby girl, he's a loner. Late night organ donor, So I'm, at this point, what I want is somebody who can bear 10 children for me. Somebody who's going to make me breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Somebody who's not going to put up a big fight, all right? At this stage in the game, I'm an old man. I'm ready to settle down. I'm ready to relax. I just want somebody who's not going to be a big pain in the ass, frankly. Because I look at, we're going to probably live to be 150, right? The way modern medicine is going. I'm going to be sentenced to life with one person for like 1 million years. I just want somebody who's going to make food and it's good and it's not going to be a big hassle every time and just kind of goes with the flow, helps me out, Pleasant, friendly. Because I got to tell you, I deal with a lot of people. And I feel like it's either me, I'm probably just have a low threshold, a very low tolerance, but I feel like everybody is such an annoyance all the time. And so I just want somebody who's just going to be there and it's just going to be pleasant to be around and not going to give me a hard time. I can say, you know what, I'm not in the mood to talk, and they're just going to leave me alone, or not going to bother me when I'm doing something, just going to make dinner. So really, people would, what's your ideal significant other? Oh, well, brown hair, whatever, blah, blah. Well, at this point, it's really like, who's going to be a compatible life partner? Who can I live with? Because I have a hard time living with anybody, really. I have a hard time just dealing with most people. So at this point, it's just somebody who's tolerable to be around. Frankly, at this stage in the game. Is that a relatable gamer moment? I feel like an old man already. So I'm just ready to find some woman who's just going to take care of me, just chill out and be very traditional. Not this kind of, look at me, pay attention to me, I want to, whatever. So that's ideal. That's ideal to me. Elron says, Ho's mad equals victory royale for God, BTFO. So true. God is up there, number one victory royale. Anglo says, do you think you'll be able to find a virgin? I'm sure, because I'm not sure as hell not gonna marry somebody who isn't. Could you imagine? Could you imagine being so cucked and blue-pilled as to do something like that? So I'll go find one. I'll go to another country. I'll do whatever it takes. That's why I'm waiting, because if I were to settle now, it'd be like kind of slim pickings. But I'm going to wait until I'm in a position to just kind of, have my pick, have a good selection. If I accumulate a lot of wealth, then it's like, you can have your pick. My username says, join premium now that I'm living the wagey life to thank you for the many hours of solid entertainment. By the way, looking good with the chubby face. Thanks. Yeah, I noticed I was watching an old clip of my show the other day, and I did look a little bit leaner. It was from when John McCain died, so like last summer, and my face did look a little bit leaner. I don't know if it's because I didn't shave when I was comparing it, but it looked a little bit leaner. So I don't know. If it really is or not. But and I asked my parents, they're like, well, your face is filling in. You're getting more mature. And I'm like, well, that doesn't really help. It's not like I'm gaining weight. I'm still a skinny guy. I'm still a skinny dude. Okay? My BMI is like 20. And I'm skinny. And I haven't gained any weight. So I guess it is just, maybe that's a cope though. But I guess my face is filling in a little bit. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It can't be young forever. We're all going to die. We're all going to get old and... yeah. Youth wasted on the young. Yeah, I remember when they used to tell me that. I remember when I was at my 9th birthday party. I was reminiscing last night, driving around. And I remember on my 9th birthday party, what my aunt told me? My aunt told me it's only 1 year until you become a double-digit dork. It's my 9th birthday party. That's what she told me. It was in the basement, and it was before we were exchanging presents. And I remember what I got. I remember what I got from her. I got the Tactics Transformers Star Wars combo pack. Okay? So I remember that. And it was a birthday party, and she was like, she was talking to me and my sister. She's like, you guys, it's only 1 year until you guys are double-digit dorks. It was our 9th birthday party, double-digit dorks, insinuating that when our age is in the double digits, 10 years old, we become dorks. And I was like, man, I'm getting old. I was like, man, I'm 10 years old. That's pretty big. And now I look back and I'm like, I don't want to be a double-digit dork anymore. I want to be a baby again. I'm so old. And so anyway, but what are you going to do? That's the way it goes. You move in one direction. So anyway, Smelly says cheating on your wife makes you love them more. That's probably true. And for men like me, maybe that's part of it. I don't know. Probably immoral, but look, when you're as virile as I am, I think God understands, right? Kidding, joking. Tim says, shout out to Hoff. He's graduating Sunday. Okay. Smelly says, donating to you gives more dopamine than a whore. True. It's true, because you're saving the white race. Stunt muffins to start lifting and drinking a gallon of milk a day. You have to separate yourself from the lanky lefties. Yeah, no way. No way, that's such a cope. I noticed all the people that are always telling me, you're too skinny, you need to do this. They're all ugly and fat. It's a total cope. People see the most the most attractive, a skinny young white kid, and they're like a skinny, handsome young white kid, and it drives them into a frenzy. What? A skinny young? Well, you're like a bitch or something. You're a dork. It's because we're like the most beautiful people that exist on the globe. You know, this class of people. You know, if you were to select what class is the most desired, it's not some muscle bob, square pants situation. No, it's a skinny young white guy, you know, frankly. So I'm going to enjoy my years as a lanklet. You only have so many years where you can be a lanklet. And, you know, once my metabolism slows down and I have to, you know, start hitting the gym to stop myself from getting fat, then I'll beef up a little bit. But, you know, people telling me to ruin my, you know, my physique with this gallon of milk stuff and all the rest of, you know, got to bulk and everything. No way. No way. I have a new appreciation. I got a phone call from somebody, and they were telling me about the paleo thing and blah, blah. And they said, you know, once you get older and you start to put on the pounds, you can't really take them off. You can't really, it's very difficult and nearly impossible to get and stay skinny. So you should think about that before you bulk up. And I was like, you know what? You're right. You're right. I have so many years as, you know, in this figure, right? Before I have to become, you know, some kind of, I don't know, some kind of, you know, large individual. I got to start going to the gym and watching what I eat and all the rest. So no way. No, I'm not drinking a gallon of estrogen every day and getting big tits and everything. No way. I'm enjoying my life. I'm living life, feeling free. So anyway, but we're going to take a look, or no, I'm sorry. We did that. That's the wrong transition. Marc Rebillet moment. That's the wrong transition. We already took a look at the Super Chats. That's all the Super Chats. It's Thursday, man. Look, end of the week. I'm tired, all right? So that's all our Super Chats for tonight. That's going to do it for us. Remember to check us out at NickJFuentes.com/membership to become a premium member. Only $5 a month. Only $5 a month to get one additional show every week. And remember, it also supports the show. So you get the additional show, and also it's the best way to support our show. 100% viewer funded, so we need the monetary support from the masses because I don't get it from Israel or from you know, a foreign country or anything. So be sure to check that out. The link is down below. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below, click the notification bell to get notified every time I go live. Remember, we are on the air Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm NickJFuentes. As always, this is America First. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks to our Super Chatters, premium members, everybody who watches the show. We love you. And we'll see you tomorrow. Until then, have a great rest of your evening.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo. It's going to be only America first. America